It's close. Enclosed. Closet. The day I moved into the old Victorian house was filled with excitement and a sense of accomplishment. It was the perfect blend of historical charm and modern amenities, a dream home in every sense. Friends helped me unpack, and by evening, the house was starting to feel like home. We celebrated with pizza and wine, toasting to new beginnings. As night fell and my friends left, I wandered through the house, feeling the echoes of its past lives. The wooden floors creaked underfoot, and the walls seemed to whisper with memories. I found comfort in the character of the house, even in the slightly eerie sensation it gave off. It was part of its charm, I told myself. When I came to my bed, I fell asleep immediately. Next day, it was my first night alone in this house. This is the moment when I heard the noise. A soft, almost imperceptible rustling coming from the closet in my bedroom. At first, I dismissed it as the house settling, maybe a draft. I tried to ignore it, focusing on the novel I was reading. But as the night grew darker and the house quieter, the noise became more distinct. I decided to investigate, armed with nothing but my curiosity and a small flashlight. I opened the closet door, half expecting to find a mouse or some other small creature. But there was nothing, just my clothes hanging neatly, shoes lined up on the floor. I closed the door, feeling a little foolish for being spooked. Still, the uneasy feeling lingered as I climbed into bed and eventually drifted off to sleep. Over the next few days, the noises persisted. Each night, they grew a little louder, a little more insistent. It was no longer just rustling, there were knocks, almost as if someone were tapping rhythmically on the inside of the closet door. The knocks were subtle at first, but they soon grew more pronounced, more deliberate. I started to feel a creeping sense of unease that gnawed at the edges of my mind. One night, as I lay in bed listening to the knocks, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I turned on the bedside lamp and stared at the closet door, half expecting it to burst open. But it remained closed, silent. I told myself it was just my imagination running wild, but the fear was real. I decided to investigate again, hoping to put my mind at ease. I opened the closet door slowly, peering into the darkness. The flashlight beam cut through the shadows, revealing nothing out of the ordinary. But then I noticed something strange, a faint, almost imperceptible smell, like something rotten. It was so subtle that I almost thought I was imagining it. I closed the closet door quickly and backed away, heart pounding. As a week passed, the noises grew worse. The knocks became bangs, heavy and deliberate, like someone trying to break out. It wasn't just at night anymore, I heard it during the day too. I stopped inviting friends over, embarrassed by the strange sounds and unable to explain them. How could I, when I didn't understand them myself? I even thought that I was just crazy, and the noises were only on my head. Probably that would be the best scenario after all I have seen. After 2 more days, on particularly stormy night, the bangs were so loud they shook the walls. I was petrified. I grabbed a flashlight and, summoning all my courage, flung open the closet door. Nothing. Just the same clothes, the same shoes. But now, the foul odor was stronger, more pungent. I gagged and quickly shut the door, backing away. I started to avoid my bedroom. I slept on the couch, trying to drown out the noises with the TV. But no matter where I went in the house, I could still hear it, the banging, the scratching, the whispering. Yes, whispering. Low, guttural whispers that seemed to come from the very walls. It was as if the house itself was alive, trying to communicate with me. By the second week, I was at my breaking point. Sleep-deprived and terrified, I decided to stay with a friend for a few nights. I needed to get out, to clear my head. But as I was packing a bag, the noises escalated into a full-blown cacophony. It sounded like a wild animal was trapped inside the closet, thrashing and growling. I froze, my heart in my throat. Then, suddenly it stopped, dead silence. Cautiously, I approached the closet one last time. I could feel a cold draft seeping from the edges of the door. My hand trembled as I reached for the knob. I had to know. I had to see what was inside. As I turned the knob and pulled the door open, I was hit by a wave of icy air and that same rancid smell. There, in the darkness, something moved. A figure, hulking and grotesque, stepped forward. It was enormous, its head nearly brushing the top of the closet. Its skin was a mottled gray, slick and wet, glistening in the dim light. Eyes, glowing an eerie yellow, bore into me. Its mouth, filled with rows of razor-sharp teeth, twisted into a hideous grin. Long, sinewy arms ended in claws that looked capable of tearing through steel. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. The creature let out a low, rumbling growl that vibrated through my bones. It stepped out of the closet, its footfalls heavy and deliberate. The floorboards creaked under its weight. It reached out a clawed hand toward me, and I felt a cold, slimy touch graze my arm. That was enough to snap me out of my paralysis. I punched the creature as strong as I could, turned and bolted from the room, not stopping to grab anything. The shriek that gave after I punched it is the sound I will never forget in my life. I flew down the stairs, my bare feet barely touching the steps, and burst out the front door into the night. Still hearing a heart-rending scream, I ran down the street, being dressed only in my underwear, and not daring to look back. I reached my friend's house, panting and trembling. I must have looked like a madman, but he took me in without question. I spent the next week there, too terrified to return home. When I finally did, it was out of sheer necessity. I couldn't avoid it forever. The house was unrecognizable. Furniture was overturned, pictures smashed, walls scarred with deep gouges. It looked like a hurricane had torn through it, and the closet door was open, hanging off its hinges. I knew I couldn't stay in that house. I packed up what little remained of my belongings and moved out that same day. I wasted no time. I quickly put the house up for sale, desperate to leave the nightmare behind. The realtor didn't ask too many questions when I explained my reason for selling. I didn't care about making a profit, I just wanted out. The weeks that followed were a blur of packing, cleaning, and trying to erase the memories of what had happened. Every creak of the house, every flicker of movement in the corner of my eye sent chills down my spine. I stayed with friends or in hotels, unable to stay in one place for too long. When the sale finally went through, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The new owners were a young couple with no children, eager to move into their dream home. I wished them well, but couldn't bring myself to warn them about the closet. Part of me hoped that whatever had haunted me wouldn't bother them. As I drove away from the house for the last time, I glanced back at it in the rearview mirror. It looked serene in the afternoon sunlight, almost peaceful. But I knew better. I knew the darkness that lurked within its walls, hidden behind its charming facade. I moved to a new city, into a modern apartment with no closets big enough for anything to hide in. I thought I was safe. Yet even now, years later, I still sometimes wake up in a cold sweat, haunted by the memory of that evening. The image of the creature, its yellow eyes and twisted grin, the growling, the scratching, the whispers, and the devastating shriek. All of this still follows me in my nightmares. I've never heard of any strange occurrences in that house since I left. Perhaps whatever had been trapped in the closet had finally found its peace or moved on to torment someone else. I never found out what the creature was or where it came from. I try not to dwell on it too much, but there are nights when the wind howls outside my window and I find myself checking the closet door, just to be sure. Some horrors can never be fully escaped. They linger in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to remind you that they're still there, just out of sight. And so, I live with the knowledge that monsters are real, and sometimes they hide in the most unexpected places like the darkness of a closet in an old Victorian house.